Hello everyone, so today we're going to learn a bit of DEdit tutorial, which is the map maker made for the game Alien vs Predator 2. So once you've installed the two main package, you should see in your Alien vs Predator 2 folder a folder named Tools. Within this folder, you should see a bunch of files. The one that are interesting us is DEdit.x, which is the word editor. But before running it, we need to launch the unres.bat. So we do get, after that, an AVP2 folder there. What's actually in it is the entire game file. So the processor knows where it can launch and access the file, the texture, and the word if it needs to be. That's where also you will have your words, basically your map. If I go in it and go in single player, there I have some of my maps here, as you can see. So this is where they will be saved in the end. Okay, so we can start the DEdit.x program. So when you arrive in this game, you should see like this interface. The first thing we need to do, because right now the project is unloaded, is to actually load the Alien vs Predator 2 file asset. To do so, we're going to go to File. As you can see, it's already loading there because I've loaded before. It's a file called DEP. It should be within the AVP2 folder, if I'm not missing. Yeah, you see it's there. It's a very small file. So if I go to Open Project, I'll go to Alien vs Predator 2, AVP2, and that's where the deb file is. And that's the one you're gonna load to launch the game. So after that, it will appear here. So I'm just going there to launch the file, and it will load actually all the asset for the game. So for example, now if I access like words, I can see that I have access to some maps here. Up. And if I go to texture, I have no access to most of the texture of a game. So before we start doing anything, we're gonna make sure of a few things. So we're gonna go to Edit, Options, and then we're gonna go to Run, and we're gonna make sure that we have the correct path. That's my path to the lightech.ex file. So this one is within the Alien vs Predator 2 file. It's the engine. It's there, as you can see. So you just need to load the correct path by browsing. Second thing you want to do is the working directory. I'm just saying where it is. You could technically here put up this. I think it works, or was it like game or something? But I prefer to actually have the full path to make less mistake, because it's going anyway to find the AVP2 master folder within it. The other is a relative path, but since I have many installs and sometimes I like to switch between one drive to another, I just prefer to give the full access to it. And then you're gonna type this command here. So what does it say? It says loads this as res file. So basically load this entire folder. So all the asset basically. Once you're gonna launch the game, plus run the map you've currently processed, so the one we're in actually, and the one we are searching is the word name with percentage, which means that we're actually loading the word we're working on. So these are like the three commands you need to make sure. And the other thing you need to make sure is that by pressing Ctrl P, I have access to the processor, and there I need to make sure for now that project directory is set at /AVP2, and extra parameters is set at nosnapnocsg. And for now that's about it. We're gonna talk a bit more about all this option then, but for now that'd be all. So what I'm gonna do is to basically create a new directory within words here, add directory. I'm gonna call it tutorial, maybe with a cap. And oh, you see that it has like retracted all the folder. It's gonna do that a lot of time. I think it's like a small mistake from the developer, but every time you do add a texture or create folder, it will do this. So you will have to, it will collapse the folder. So you will have to, find it again. So go to the newly created folder, and there we're gonna do a right click and create new word and name it first word. Create, press OK. And now you should see these 4 windows. So what are these? They are actually different views of the same thing. So there you do have the 3D view, and there you got the XYZ view, which means that you're seeing the front, the side, and the top view. Or maybe it's another, I don't know, is it written actually? XY, XZ, yes. So you can see here that it displays which axis we're actually seeing. So this one is XZ, this one is YZ, and this one is XY. And it shows the size of a grid, and the coordinates or mouse is actually moving to. So if you need to move within this window, you're gonna press O and then move your mouse, and you're gonna be able to look around, and if you release, it stops. If you press I, you can move forward, backward, sideways, and if you press right click and move, you can go up and down. So this is basically how you're gonna move. Pressing O to look around, pressing I to move. Up, down, right click. Okay. If you're far away and lost and you don't know anymore where is the cursor, you can just go here to center view, and if you haven't selected anything, it will center around the cross mark of a word. So it's not lost. So these are the basic commands. The first thing we're gonna do for level is to actually have a room. Oh yes, you can zoom in, zoom out by pressing O, and you can move around by pressing I. Zoom in, zoom out, I. Same for all of you. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna want to do is to create a room. For that, we're gonna do a cube. So I'm going to be on this view here, and I'm gonna place my cursor around, this black line here, and I'm gonna press backspace, or space, sorry. You're gonna press space, and there's a dot, a red dot that just drew on screen. If you move a cursor, you're gonna see it creates a line between 2 points. So what I'm gonna do is actually do a straight line about this size, which is 512, because each line is 64. So this is 256, this is 512. And I'm gonna hit again space, and I can move again around to create another line. So I'm just continuing there, and I'm gonna press again space, and again space, and then I'm gonna close this square. with space here. So I'm going back to the start and space. And suddenly you have a window that appears that says new brush, and you have brush thickness 64. So basically what it means is that once I'm gonna press OK, it's gonna do a 64 unit thickness brush here. What we want is to have the same thickness on all sides. So to do so, we'll have to actually put 512, because this is 512. So it creates a cube here vertically, that's 512 unit. Press OK and bam! You have now a cube within your map. So this is a brush. Your brush appear in the nodes here, 3. So we're gonna go there, and within the container, I like to rename it by either clicking or press F2 and name it master container. And if you want, you can say like my first level. Okay. Now we're gonna do a few things. We're gonna create a new container, and I'll explain that a bit later, that it becomes a bit more important later. So to do so, we're gonna add a container, and we're gonna rename it again F2, and we're gonna say it's detail 0. And just for good measure, we're gonna add a containers. Another one says detail 1. And we're gonna take this brush 0 and put it within detail 0. So as you can see, there's brush 0 here. We're gonna rename it, say detail 0. So this is very important actually for optimization, because the game needs a lot of optimization to work smoothly. And part of how you do it is to drive it through folder by carefully splitting the map through different containers, different chunks, so you help the processor to drive what's to be rendered or not in a more coherent way. If you're basically your container is just the master file with all the brush, it's going to cause problem, like a lot of problem. So to make sure we don't lose anything, we're gonna press Ctrl S to save. It's better to save, you know, from time to time, because a lot of things can happen quickly. It's an old software. Crash can happen. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen sure enough. So just by taking, you know, a bit of precaution, we can actually save us some time. There's actually an autosave function. It's within edit option. I think maybe general. Yeah, minutes between autosave. It's actually set to 5 minutes. You can put it like less, like 1 minute or 60 as it says. I'll leave it to the default, and usually I'm handling it myself. So as you can see right now, the cube is looking like all the face of the cube, like the 6 face, are looking outwards. What does that mean? That means that if I get within the cube, I no more see the face. That's because in most video games you actually do only render faces only by their normals. So their normals is the way the face are actually generated and what they look at. What we're gonna do is actually reverse the normal. To do so, we're gonna press Ctrl F, and right now you can see that all the face are within the interior of the cube. And voila. So by doing so, we've actually created a room where we could, like, theoretically, you know, move in. Because if you're there and you put a character, the character just gonna fall through. It's not going to stick to anything, because the normal are very important. It's the way the normal are facing is very important in this game. So again, Ctrl F to reverse the normal, and so we have a nice room. Now we have a problem, is that this cube has actually all the faces are attached. The problem is with detail 0, you can never attach two faces for game optimization. It's a bit complicated, but the main idea is that, let's imagine I have this face and this face attached and all the other disjointed. The game will still think that this face and this face form a cube. It will not think that there's a plane and a plane here. It will just think that there's kind of a volume here. So to prevent that from happening, what we need to do is actually separate the face. And to do so, there's a command called Ctrl G which separate the face. And as you can see now, in my node tree, I do have 6 faces, which correspond each to one of the room. Okay, so now that we're building one-sided face, we need to do absolutely something about them to tell the processor, okay, be careful, this face is only a one-sided face, it's not a full brush. So we're gonna go there in detail 0, select everything, go to Properties, No Snap, and we're gonna turn it to True. If you do not do that, you're gonna basically miss to tell the processor that this is a nosnapnocsg face to render, and it's going to think it's an actual full brush, but the brush is kind of missing. It's missing like its closure, and because of that, nothing will be rendered, especially in the shell. The shell is actually the whole container that contains everything that's in the map, and it works to actually optimize the visibility of the player in chunk, called the binary space partitioning, the BSP. So once we have this, we actually have a room that we could technically render, but as you can see, the design right now is a bit blank. So we're going to do something which is to apply a bit of texture. So we're going to go there to the texture tab, and within this textures tab you should see something called word texture, and there I'm just going to review a few. I think I'm going to floor, and I don't know, I just look at a few texture, maybe this one, DM flat, and I'm gonna select the bottom texture here, and I'm gonna press Ctrl with the texture selected. I'm gonna press Ctrl T, and it doesn't work. Ah yes, I think I know why. Yeah, okay. Oops. So what did I do? Okay. So technically speaking, what you should see is the ground happening. I just need to figure out, because from another project I did something that was a bit different. Hardware acceleration. Let's do that. Shade mode. Flat polys. Okay. Shade mode. Texture polys. View mode. Option. No. Use direct 3D. Yeah. So. Well, technically speaking, you shouldn't see this texture. If you do it, you should see like it's colored like, the cyan, the magenta or something, full color. I don't know why it's actually loading a texture here. If I do that, yes, it's actually loading the blurry texture on all of this. Oh yes, I know why. It's because when I created the words, I was on a texture. So I'm just going to do something for you quickly. So you have no problem. I'm just gonna redo the room up. And it's not going to work because I now have the texture loaded. Yeah, so never mind. So yeah, when you create a brush, but it's good to see, it actually loads the last texture you've been selected. So in my case, it's this one. So I'm gonna go there to the floor. As I said, dim flat. I'm gonna select the bottom part. Yeah, I need to redo just one thing, up, which is up. Name there detail 0. No snap. Okay. Okay, we're ready. Up. And I'm gonna go there for, you know, the wall. Maybe, I don't know, wall 5 and something. Wall 7 maybe. Who knows? Yeah, let's do something like this. So I'm multi-selecting. To do that, I'm selecting a face, then I hold Ctrl and click. I'm moving around, Ctrl, click, and click. And now I'm gonna press Ctrl T, and I do have the texture in place. But as you can see, this is supposed to be the bottom of a texture, so we should see this around here, which we do, but we have a texture that's actually displaying twice, because this texture is supposed to be 256 by 256. So we do see it repeating. To change that, you have a texture take from the top to the bottom. We can go to here, right click, map texture coordinate, and we can change the U scale to 512 and the V scale to 512. And now we should have a texture that goes from the top to the bottom of the room. Voila. And then we're gonna select something. I think I'm still going to floor ceiling and find something for the roof. Oh, by the way, to unselect something, you press U. So you select something, you press U, it unselect. And for the last one, we're gonna go, you know, find something. What's there? No, maybe if I go there in FC1, yeah, some asphalt. Or maybe there with some light, should be good. Up. And as you can see again, there's like 4 of them, so I'm going to do right click, map texture, 512, 512. Oh, okay, as you can see, it's all in the corner. I want it to be like the texture here, which means that it should be at the center. To do so, I'm gonna enter Geometry Mod, so I'm gonna press Ctrl G or J, yeah. And as you can see, when I put the cursor on the texture, it turns to red. That means I'm selected as the active element, this, and then you can choose to, you know, move around the vertices here. So I'm just gonna remain at the center and press L, and it's going to say auto texture option, linear, stretch to fit, adjust top left. We're gonna do that, leave it to the default and press OK, and bam, it should have the texture center. To get out of this mode, because if you notice, if I press U, I cannot unselect this. So to unselect this, because now if you want to texture this or select, you cannot like choose to select another brush. So to unselect this, we're gonna go back to the brush mode, which is Ctrl B and press U. And if you wonder, both modes are here, brush edit and geometry edit. So you can hop from one to another. And as you can see, when I'm in geometry mode, geometry edit, I can go over each of the face without selecting them. So if I go there, I can basically do Ctrl T here, without having to select this face, for example. Okay, so now we do have a room, we do have texture, so we're gonna need a bit of light in it. So to do so, we're gonna do a main light for the map. So we're not gonna put any object yet. So we're gonna press Ctrl W and it will open this window. And you have a few things saying, like the number of brush, polys, points. So you have kind of, you know, a resume of this map, of the technical information, what it contains. And there's an info string. So what we can type is AmbientLight, and we can say something like 50, 50, 50. So it means the strength it should apply by coordinates, if I remember correctly, X, Y, Z. Yeah. So if we do that, we should now have uniform lighting within the map. So let's go back to nodes. To actually load the map, we will need a few objects. There are some that are mandatory. There are 2 objects that are mandatory. So we're gonna go to this view. This is front and side view. As you can see, you have the word origin here, the cross arrow that's in green, and you can see it's here, that sits at the top of the map. What we want to do is to move this thing about 2 square, so 128 units from the floor. So to do so, we're going to place the cursor here and press X. And as you can see, when I'm pressing X, I can actually move this thing around. So I'm just going there. And here I'm going to do something, which is to create a new container. This one will be named Game Start Point, and another one called Word Proprities. Okay. So I'm going to select Game Start Point. And what we're going to do is first right click and do Set Active Parent, or press F3. So as you can see, if I press F3, we can move. Doing so will mean that anything we add to the map will go within this folder. So it won't go to the master folder here, and then we need to take them one by one within their appropriate folder. We can simply now say, okay, anything I create, you put it in Game Start Point. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do a right click here and add object. And there I'm going to go for something after you've opened this window that's named Game Start Point. And I'm going to press OK. Up, and as you can see, it has created us this gray box here. If I move around the cursor for you to see, it's a gray box with a blue, red, and a green line. So that's basically the XYZ coordinate, so X, Y, Z. And this is actually a spawner, which means when you get into the map, you will start here at this position. And the player always face the Z, the depth position, so the blue line. So actually our player, when it will arrive in the game, will look at this wall once it gets in the game. What we can do, which is a bit more funny, is actually move this here. So I'm gonna use the arrow on the keyboard on this top view here to actually move it here. So now it's, you know, on the side of the room, but it's looking forward. And what I can do also is right click and go to, no, sorry, not right click, but go to Properties and something called Rotation. And we can simply add 45 degrees here. So once you arrive in the room, you're facing to wall. So you're facing this direction. Yeah. So we're within the properties. We've changed the rotation so that the player is looking in this direction. Okay. The second thing we're gonna do, we're gonna put our a center arrow green thing, how do they name it, marker to selection. Yeah, the marker. We're gonna put the marker outside the box, completely outside the box, like here. So you know it's not overlapping here and it's not overlapping here. It's really out, like it's not there, like, because there it's out, of course, as you can see, but you could technically speaking see that here on this plane it's actually inside. So what we want is that on all view to have it outside, and this will be important later if you do skybox texture or add an inner or outer search object if you're seeking for leaks or anything, that it doesn't overlap with the word. So we've put it like outside. We're gonna go to word properties, press F3. So when we create an object will be here. And same thing, if you want to unselect an object, it's U. But if you want to select an object, you can go here, which is Object Edit, and click. Or the shortcut, so I'm going back to brush mod, because you know now if I'm trying to select the brush icon, Ctrl B to select the texture, Ctrl H to select the object. So I'm unselecting game start point, and I'm gonna go to word properties, load as my active parents word properties, and I'm gonna add a word properties, which should be the almost at the end here. So we're gonna press OK, and there we're gonna see a few things. We're gonna go to properties, and we're gonna go to fog info here, and we're gonna do fog enable false, because we do not need fogs, at least not in this map. Hop. Okay. So we should have everything to start looking at our first map. So what we're gonna do, save. And now we are going to press Ctrl P to load the processor. So I won't tell you exactly how everything works here for now. Just know that always have full optimization on and fast approximation off, period. Just do that. It's very important you have nosnapnocsg and the project directory. Otherwise you won't hear like footsteps on the texture, or you know, glass impact, or you know, things like this. You need to have import geometry check, import texture flags, fixed T junction, import AV music. In your hidden is a function that's for debugging, so usually don't check it, like it's if you need to have anything appear on the word. Apply lighting, light animation. We don't have light animation here, so we could just unload it, but you know, I just keep it on even if there's nothing, because you know, it doesn't take more time to calculate. Shadows, so we want to have shadows in the map, which is not mandatory because we have an ambient light, so the light will be uniform on all texture. There shouldn't be any shadow applied. And Lambertian light maps, which will be much more a better way to render the light map. The slider, you can move it to fine. I don't move it because I'm still developing a map, and the 606 is actually the sweet spot of a slider. Basically what it means, we're gonna see that later on optimization, but if you put the slider here, it will create more chunk, and if you go there, it creates less chunk, or it's the opposite. I don't remember exactly, but it's one or the other. So it compartments the map in more or less chunk. Of course, bigger chunk are heavier to load, but they also unload more of the map. And if you have too many chunk, it can create problem with leaks, so we'll see that later. Just, you know, leave it to default. I think it's 500, it's perfectly fine, and we're gonna press OK. So once we've done that, we have the map that has generated. Basically, it tells you what it has done. So when it started, what it's using as threads, what it's loading, the light map size, grid size, all of this. Right now, there are a few numbers you're gonna love for later to check, which is the BSP3, 72-73%. It's very low. It's actually bad. But you know, there's not much in the map, so right now it's not trying to optimize anything, but usually you want to keep it above 80%. Like as much as you can. If you're under 70, like 60 something percent, you're doing terribly bad. And you can see it there too, BSP3. So that's very important. We have an ambient light. So as you can see, it's 50, 50, 50. So there's something that's lighting the world. And we got a few technical things, and there is no error message. If you would have done something bad, let's say, for example, you forget on the texture here to put nosnapnocsg true, the processor would tell you. For example, if I show you it's false, and I'm actually rendering it, and I go there, yeah, it says found one problem brush, and it gives you the coordinates. So how does it work? It basically tells you at this coordinates in the world. So I'm gonna copy that and go there. At this coordinate, there's a problem. And as you can see, it has put the marker at the beginning of the brush. Basically, it's telling me, oh, here there's like a problem. As you can see, oh yeah, it's not no snap, so I'm gonna do no snap. Sometimes it's a bit tricky because if you look at inside, could be this one, or this one. But what will usually happen is that, yeah, it's one of the three. You just check, okay, no snap, yes, no snap, yes, no snap, yes. Okay, we can go. So we do that now. No error message, it's fine. And we're ready now to run our world. So what we're gonna do is press run a world, and it's gonna load the LightTech engine, and it's gonna put us within the game. And yes, I have a reshade version. And as you can see, I'm facing the direction I've set at the beginning, and I'm within my room. I can move, I can jump, I can do a lot of things. Right now, I have created my first level where I can fight. If it was to be a multiplayer game, because there's only one game start point, if I was to die, I would respawn at the game start point all the time. Everyone would spawn at it. I don't know if you've played multiplayer, but there are some maps where there are few game start point, and the player at the beginning overlap one onto another, and sometimes gets stuck or explodes or die, you know, in agony. Also, the thing when you're playing within the game, you're actually loading the single player, so you can like load the cheat code, like what is it? It's 6 cents to fly. Yes, so you can load like this cheat code to fly around your map. Be very careful, because if you get out of the map, you're gonna die, because it's not generated. So it's single player. So if you don't put like a cheat code, can't hurt me, you're gonna die. Yeah, I just died. You see. So just take into account that you can't just, you know, run around like out of your map easily. Yeah. And we quit the game. Okay. So we have our first game start point. but I actually think that, you know, the map is a bit dull right now. It's a bit empty. So we should like add something, add some details. So we're going to talk about, you know, a principle you should know about. Basically, the detail 0 is your shell. It's the outside container that says anything you want in your map should be inside the detail 0. So basically what we're gonna do right now is to go to detail 1, press active parent, and anything that's inside the map is detail 1. So it means that if it's the shell, detail 0, if it's something inside the map, detail 1. Unless it's an object. Object can be like detail 1, like game start point, as you can see, doesn't have this property here. But as you can see here, detail 0 has something called detail level, which is either 0 or 1. Right now it's at 0, so it sets correctly because it's the shell. It's like the limit of my map, of my corridor, of my room, or anything. And anything I want to add inside should be detail 1. So I'm gonna put something to detail 1. I'm gonna go to texture, and maybe I should like create, you know, some crate. I don't know where it was again. Is it there? No, yes. I know there's crate somewhere. Maybe it's detail 2 there. Yeah, here. So we're gonna add a crate. So what we're gonna do is for us to go here, 128 units from the ground, and we're gonna do, you know, like adding a box, and we're gonna do something else, which, as you can see, we cannot like see this face. If I was a player here, this face would be a waste. It wouldn't exist. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either hide it by choosing to go to word texture and loading an invisible texture. So I could do Ctrl G, Ctrl T, and voila, it's now invisible, so it's not generated. But I actually prefer to simply just remove it. So I'm gonna separate the face, Ctrl J. I'm gonna press Ctrl click to unload this this face. I'm gonna press G or J, like G, you know, yeah. I mean, try one of the two. I'm French, I'm sorry. And now it should have, you know, all the faces are together except this one. And I can delete it. So now I have the box, and because it's not a brush that, you know, fully enclosed, I'm gonna need to go to Properties and again put no snap to true. And the other thing I'm gonna need to do is detail level, put 1. And I'm gonna do detail 1 here in the name. So let's recap. We have our word texture, our game start point, our detail 0, which is our shell, and a crate inside it. But I just don't want to put one crate. I'm gonna, you know, go there and copy and maybe paste it. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And here I'm gonna put the marker at the center and do oh, sorry. Oops. And do rotate, and I'm gonna do a rotate selection, and I'm gonna move it by 45 degrees up. So as you can see, now I have the crate, which is offset by 45 degrees. Maybe I can like move it a bit like in the back. And we're gonna reprocess the map. Ctrl P, press OK, see there's no error, everything is okay. So our BSP has dropped to 68%. There's a reason for that. It's only one room. Once you start adding a corridor and another room, this like number will rise again. I have no idea why when it's only one room and you put everything in the room, it's actually very, very low. Doing the nosnapnocsg method, which I encourage you to do, because this methodology actually allows you to see through walls. If you look at other tutorial online, or what the actual creator of AVP2 have left us, like if you go in the tools, documentation, where is it? Yeah, docs. And you go to DEdit, it actually says you should do a room made only of brush, you know, but the problem with this, you can't see through it. And what's going to happen anyway is that all the outside brush gonna disappear once they do optimization. So it's not, I don't really see the point. It's mostly getting in the way. And I think this method I'm showing you is much easier to do your own optimization of the map. Because the problem here with this one is that they're expecting you to actually trust something that's called a leak file to find the, if you have a hole in the map, like it's leaking at some point. It usually works, but when it doesn't, it doesn't. There's no leak file you can make. I mean, you can like try to say here had like leak file and create one, but the problem here, and the advantage is that the problem is you have nothing that tells you what you've done wrong, but you can trust yourself. There you can trust yourself of what you've done. Here the problem is, I think with this method, that it's like it's so heavily charged in the map, like there's so many elements and you can't see through things. Like for example, if look how clean this is. I know that this is the shell. Like if I press detail 0, this is the shell, right? If I show you a map, like let's say I'm gonna load the, no, I think it's evac, yeah, it's, or maybe DM, yeah, sample DM should be fine, should be a lesser fate. Yeah, the problem here, as you can see, is I cannot see through the walls. So I'm like, oh, okay, what's the shell? Oh, the shell is there. Oh, is it? Yeah, so it's there, it's there, it's there, it's this face, this face, this face. But if you're there, you don't have a quick access to, oh, okay, is it like correctly like connecting? Because you know, like right now I'm outside the word, so I don't need to do that. So I'm gonna need to do this and this, and oh yes, now I see it. You know, and you're like, you're only getting through texture to see if everything is actually connecting correctly. And actually I think the map is so fucked up right now, because they have like this continue on there. Oh, well, lesser fate, what have you done? Oh, I can show you quickly. I think there's a problem here, maybe, not sure, but I'm gonna load the map. Oh, 59%. Yeah, it's really bad actually. The BSP is like terrible. I mean, I'm not like burning the developer, but yeah, it's not like something you would want to have, especially on a small scale map as a lesser fate. We're gonna just wait a second, but it creates the lighting. It will probably load a few light animation too. I think there's the one down in the map. As you can see, the more elements you add, the more object the map has, the longer these things will take. I remember that back in the days, like I think it was in 2004 or something, I had a map that used to take about 20 minutes to actually properly process. Doesn't happen anymore. I think computers have come a really long way, even if it's not GPU optimized or anything, it's just the processor. But you know, 32 core right now, threads, I mean, is plenty enough to render any map you can. Yeah, you see, you have like, I have a lot of light animation here on the map, so it's loading them. And when you see full optimization, it's the ending. Like basically it has compiled anything, and now it's creating the chunk of the map. So it's well organized. I'm gonna press OK, load the map. And what I'm going to search for is, so I have a little program which replaces the third person with the wireframe. And oh no, there's no problem. Oh yes, there is. So as you can see, technically there shouldn't be anything beyond that thing here, because you know, but if I go there, you can clearly see that there's a texture. So yeah, it's badly optimized, because technically it should be like stop at this line, but it doesn't, and something is outside the map, and you can see it through the wireframe here. So this is why I don't like this brush method, because it's really hard to see where the problem are. The only thing you can trust is the leak file, but that means you're trusting the computer and not yourself. I prefer, you know, I got nothing against computer, but once you start to have very, very big and complex map, I'd rather go, you know, select detail 0 and see that everything is the shell, and detail 1, everything that's inside is inside, and I make no mistake. I haven't like forgotten anything. I think this technique is pretty straightforward, pretty easy to follow. So you shouldn't do too many mistakes, and they are very easily, you can easily fix them. It's not like hard. If you've put something that's detail 1 in detail 0, just take it and put it there. If you forget there that it should be detail 1, then put it detail 1, and voila. And if you have a doubt, you can click, select everything, put 0, and then 1, so it will load everything at detail 1. So if you see that everything that's inside is 1, but you have like many objects, you just go there, you just select the entire container, put detail 0, because if you put, like, if it's on detail 1 and you put detail 1, it will not affect anything. But if you like ask everything to go to detail 0, everything will go to detail 0, and then you can put it back to detail 1, and everything will be related to detail 1 within the selection. So we're gonna process again the map. Let's go. Okay. No error. 72%. Yeah, well, it's getting probably better. Okay. Let's launch and see how it goes. And voila. We have a map with 4 walls, a ceiling, a floor, and 2 crates where I can stand on if I fly. Yeah, 2 crates where I can hide, and you know, from the xenomorph, because they may be here. No. So yeah, you've learned the basic of how to make a room and add a few elements within it. So voila, this is your first level. I think we're gonna end the tutorial here before we go within more advanced technique the next time. Thank you for following. See you around.